Hold on. He told his own sister to stand at the back at their father's own funeral, in front of everyone. Why would he do that unless he wanted her out of the way?
Stand in the back. My brother didn't lower his voice. He made sure the entire room heard him. I'm Lena, standing beside my father's casket in a packed chapel, every seat filled, every eye suddenly shifting between us. I didn't misunderstand him. He was telling me his sister, the one who took care of Dad, to move out of sight like I didn't belong at my own father's funeral. A few people exchanged looks. No one stepped in. Daniel just held my gaze, calm, controlled, like this was already decided. So I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just turned and walked out. But the second the doors shut behind me, someone inside raised their voice. Wait, that's not the document we agreed on. And just like that, everything inside stopped. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. The silence inside that chapel didn't feel like grief anymore. It felt like something had just gone wrong. I froze just outside the doors, my hand still on the handle. For a second, I thought I imagined it. But then I heard movement chairs shifting, quiet murmurs rising, the kind that ripple when something isn't part of the plan. That's not the document we agreed on, the voice repeated, sharper this time. Agreed on? My chest tightened. Daniel hadn't mentioned anything about agreements. Not to me. Not once in the weeks leading up to this. He handled arrangements, sure, but every time I asked, he brushed it off. Said he had it under control. Said I should focus on being there for Dad. And I was there every day, every appointment, every night he couldn't sleep, while Daniel showed up when it mattered publicly. I slowly pushed the door open just enough to see inside. Daniel was still at the front, standing beside the podium, but something had changed. His posture, usually so composed, was stiff now. One hand gripped a folded paper. The other hung awkwardly at his side. People weren't looking at the casket anymore. They were looking at him, and near the front row, Mr. Hargrove Dad's attorney was on his feet. That alone didn't make sense. Mr. Hargrove wasn't supposed to speak today. He was just attending quietly, respectfully, but now he was staring directly at Daniel. That's not the version you showed me, he said, loud enough for half the room to hear. A cold feeling spread through me. Version? Daniel gave a tight smile, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. This isn't the time, Richard, he said, trying to keep his voice even. We'll discuss this later. Latter. Like whatever this was, could wait. But Mr. Hargrove didn't sit down. And that's when I noticed something else. Daniel didn't look at him like someone being interrupted. He looked at him like someone being exposed. My grip tightened on the door. Suddenly, being told to stand in the back didn't feel like humiliation anymore. It felt like strategy. Like he needed me out of the way before something was said, or read, or revealed. Inside, the murmuring grew louder. A few relatives turned in their seats, whispering to each other. Someone near the aisle shook their head slowly, confused. Daniel adjusted the paper in his hand, unfolding it slightly, then stopping, like he wasn't sure if he should continue. For the first time all morning, he hesitated. And that hesitation said more than anything else, because Daniel doesn't hesitate. Not when he's in control. Not when he thinks he's winning. So why now? I took a step inside before I could overthink it. The door creaked softly, but in the silence, it sounded louder than it should have. A few heads turned toward me. Daniel saw me instantly, and just for a split second, the calm expression he'd been holding all morning slipped. Not anger, not annoyance, fear. Real, unmistakable fear. Then he straightened, forcing composure back into place. "Lena," he said, his tone tight, controlled again, "I thought I asked you to—" "Why does he have a different document?" I cut in, my voice steady, even though my pulse was racing. The room went completely still. Daniel didn't answer. He just stared at me. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't fully let myself believe before. This wasn't just about control. This was about something he didn't want anyone else to hear, especially me. Mr. Hargrove took a step closer to the front, his eyes moving between us. "Lena," he said carefully, "you should probably—" Daniel's voice snapped in, sharper this time. "That won't be necessary. Too fast, too defensive, too late." Because now everyone was watching, and whatever he was trying to manage quietly was already slipping out of his hands. I took another step forward. "Then read it," I said, and this time I didn't lower my voice. "Read exactly what's in your hand." Daniel didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even look at the paper anymore. Because now he was looking at something else entirely. Something in the room that hadn't been there a moment ago. And whatever it was, it made the color drain from his face. Daniel wasn't supposed to lose control, especially not here. For as long as I could remember, he thrived in moments like this. Structured, public, controlled. He was always the one people deferred to when things got complicated. The one who handled paperwork, decisions, anything that required authority. And for a long time, I let him. Even when Dad got sick, that pattern didn't immediately change. Daniel took over the important parts, legal documents, finances, insurance. He spoke to lawyers. He made calls behind closed doors. "Less stress for you," he'd say. At the time, it sounded reasonable. Because I was the one sitting in hospital rooms, counting out pills, helping Dad through the worst nights, I didn't have the energy to question what Daniel was doing on the administrative side. But there were moments, small ones, that didn't quite fit. Like the time I walked into Dad's room and Daniel quickly folded a document and slid it into his jacket. Or when I asked about a bill and he answered too quickly like he'd already rehearsed it. Or the way Dad would sometimes go quiet when Daniel mentioned finalizing things. At the time, I told myself it was just stress, grief creeping in early, nothing more. But now, standing in that chapel, with everyone watching, and Mr. Hargrove still on his feet, those moments came rushing back all at once. Because this didn't feel like stress anymore. This felt deliberate. Daniel finally cleared his throat, forcing a thin smile as he looked around the room. "There's no confusion," he said, his voice measured again. "Just a minor misunderstanding." But no one relaxed. Not even a little. Mr. Hargrove didn't sit down, and I didn't step back. If anything, I moved closer. Because whatever Daniel had been managing quietly for weeks was now unraveling in front of everyone. And for the first time, I wasn't the one being pushed out of the picture. He was. Daniel glanced down at the paper in his hand, then back at me. And under his breath, just low enough that only I could hear, he said, "You shouldn't have come back in." Then he looked up at the room and made a decision. "I think everyone deserves clarity." Daniel's voice carried across the room again, but it wasn't as steady as before. That alone was enough to shift something in the air. He unfolded the paper in his hand more deliberately this time, smoothing it out like he was buying himself a few extra seconds. His eyes skimmed over the lines, but he wasn't really reading. He was choosing what to say, what to leave out. I stayed where I was, a few steps into the aisle now, close enough to see the slight tremor in his fingers. Dad was very clear about how he wanted things handled, Daniel continued. He trusted me to make sure everything went smoothly. A few people nodded automatically. That was the version they knew. The responsible son, the decision maker. But then, Mr. Hargrove spoke again. That's not what he told me. The words landed hard, audible, unavoidable. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Richard, this isn't—" "You showed me a different draft," Mr. Hargrove interrupted, stepping
That's not what he told me.
fully into the aisle now. 3 weeks ago. Signed, witnessed. A sharp murmur spread through the chapel. 3 weeks ago, my stomach dropped. That was right before Dad's condition got worse. Right before he stopped being able to speak clearly. I looked back at Daniel, really looked at him this time, and suddenly all those moments, documents hidden, conversations cut short, that urgency Dad had in his voice near the end, they stopped feeling random. They started lining up. Daniel exhaled slowly, forcing a tight smile again. There were revisions, he said. That's normal. Not without filing them, Mr. Hargrove replied instantly. Silence, heavy, pressing. Daniel didn't respond because he couldn't, because now this wasn't just tension. This was public, this was official. And whatever version of control he thought he had was slipping. I took another step forward, my voice cutting clean through the silence. Then read it, I said, exactly as it is. Daniel's eyes flicked to me sharp this time, not controlled, not calm, cornered, and for the first time since this started, he didn't try to speak. He just stood there, holding that paper like it suddenly weighed too much, while the entire room waited. Read it, Daniel. This time, it wasn't just me. Our aunt's voice came from the front row firm, unmistakable, and once she said it, others shifted in agreement. You could feel it tipping now. The room wasn't on his side anymore. Daniel swallowed, his composure thinning by the second. This is a funeral, he said, forcing a strained chuckle. This isn't the place for... For what? I cut in. For the truth? That did it. The word hung there, truth, and no one looked away. Daniel's grip tightened around the paper. For a moment, it looked like he might actually read it. His eyes dropped to the page again, scanning, calculating. Then I saw it, that second envelope, still tucked halfway inside his jacket, untouched, unmentioned. I pointed straight at it. Or read that one. The shift was immediate. Daniel froze completely, visibly, undeniably. His shoulders locked, his breathing hitched just enough for the people closest to notice. What is she talking about? Someone whispered behind me. Our aunt stood up now, turning fully toward him. Daniel, she said slowly, what is in that envelope? He didn't answer, didn't move, because now there was nowhere left to direct the moment, no way to smooth it over. The version he was holding wasn't enough anymore. And everyone could feel it. I stepped closer, close enough, now that I could reach him if I wanted to. Go ahead, I said quietly. Show them. His eyes snapped to mine, and in them, no more control, no more authority, just panic. That's not supposed to be here, he muttered, barely audible. But it was enough, because the entire front row heard it. A sharp intake of breath rippled through the room. Mr. Hargrove took another step forward, his tone no longer cautious. Daniel, he said, you need to hand that over. Daniel didn't react, didn't comply. He just stood there, caught between two versions of the same truth, knowing one of them was about to destroy him. And finally, I stopped waiting. I reached forward and took the envelope out of his pocket. No one tried to stop me. Not Daniel, not anyone. The moment that envelope left his pocket, whatever control he had left in that room was gone. My hands were steady as I opened it, even though my heart wasn't. The paper inside was thicker, official. I could see the notary seal before I even unfolded it. Different from the one he was holding, I turned and handed it directly to Mr. Hargrove. For everyone, I said. He hesitated for only a second, then took it, adjusted his glasses, and began reading aloud. The room didn't just go quiet. It locked in. This document, he started, voice clear and measured, is the last will and testament of Robert Carter, dated 3 weeks prior to his passing. A few people leaned forward. Daniel didn't move. All assets, properties, and accounts are to be divided equally between my children, Daniel Carter and Lena Carter. A murmur moved through the room. Equal, not controlled, not managed, not his. I didn't look at Daniel yet. I didn't need to. Because it wasn't over. Mr. Hargrove paused briefly, then continued. And in the event that either party attempts to alter, conceal, or misrepresent this document or its contents, that party will forfeit their claim to the estate in full. This time, the reaction wasn't a murmur. It was silence. Heavy, crushing. I turned my head slowly. Daniel was staring straight ahead now, but not at anyone. His face had gone completely pale, his lips parted slightly, like he was about to say something. But nothing came out, because there was nothing left to say. That was the moment. The exact moment everything flipped. That's why he told me to stand in the back. That's why he rushed the service. That's why he tried to read a different version, one that gave him control before anyone could question it. And that's why he panicked the second I walked back in. Because I wasn't supposed to be there to hear this. Voices started rising around us. What does that mean? Did he change it? Daniel, what did you do? People were turning now, not toward him in support, but away from him in disbelief. Our aunt stepped forward, her expression hard. She didn't look at Daniel. She looked at me. And then she placed her hand gently on my arm. That was all it took. The room had chosen. Mr. Hargrove folded the document carefully. This will be submitted to probate immediately, he said, his tone now formal. Given what's been presented, this situation may carry legal consequences. Legal consequences. Daniel flinched, just slightly, but everyone saw it. He finally spoke, his voice low, hollow. I was just trying to handle things. No one answered. Because it didn't match what they just heard, it didn't match what he just did. I stepped past him. No hesitation this time. No pause. And I took my place at the front, right beside my father's casket, where I was always meant to be. Behind me, I could feel the distance forming, the space opening up around Daniel as people subtly stepped away, leaving him isolated in a room that, minutes ago, he controlled. The service resumed slowly, quietly, but nothing felt the same. Not the room, not the people, not him. And as I stood there, looking at my father's casket, one thing settled clearly, finally. I hadn't walked out in defeat. I had walked out at the exact moment he needed me gone. And when I came back, everything he tried to hide followed me in. Daniel stayed exactly where he put me.
You ever notice
In
how
the back,
control shows up in a
alone.
quiet decision no one questions, like who stands where, who speaks, who doesn't? How often do things like this go completely unnoticed?